Hey up everyone, welcome back to the Rugby League History channel. Today I'll be doing my tips for round 9 of the 2024 NRL season. Last week I got 6 out of 8 correct, only 2 tips let me down. That being the New Zealand match against the Gold Coast, I went for New Zealand, and I also went for Redcliffe to beat Newcastle. But anyway, let's get started with the round 9 tips. And the first match is on Thursday night, and this one is between South Sydney and Penrith at Stadium Australia. In recent times, Penrith have dominated this fixture. They've won 8 of the last 10 meetings between these two sides. Now, South Sydney's chance of winning the premiership was effectively ended last week against Melbourne. We all know the 50-point rule, and they conceded over 50 points against Melbourne. As for Penrith, they had a tough win over North Queensland. Now, some people have called South Sydney and Penrith a rivalry. I did a video on this last year. If you haven't done so, go and check it out. For this match, looking at the NRL injury list and suspension list, South Sydney have a total of 8 first team players out, whereas Penrith are pretty much 1 to 17 unchanged. Things don't get any easier for South Sydney. They've got all these players out. They were battered last week against Melbourne, and now they've got to play against Penrith. So another tough ask for them. Jason Demetriou under a lot of pressure. The club's under a lot of pressure. I just can't tip them at the moment. They've shown me nothing, and I'm just going to have to go for Penrith to win this game. I think Penrith will win 13 plus. I think they'll be too good for South Sydney. South Sydney are in a lot of trouble right now. And the first match on the Friday is between Manly-Warringah and Canberra. This one's being played at Brookfield Oval. In recent times, Manly have dominated this fixture. They've won 7 of the last 10 matches against Canberra in the league. Now, last week, Manly defeated Parramatta. They weren't at their best, and they had a bit of help from Agent Sivo towards the end of the game, but they managed to get it done. As for Canberra, they were handed the big fat donut against Cronulla. They lost 40-0 at home. Very embarrassing loss for them. Doesn't get any easier for Canberra. They've got 6 first team players out headed into this match. As for Manly, they could potentially be without DCE and Olakau'atu. We'll just have to see how that goes. With Canberra, I've been one of the few people out there that hasn't been sold on them this year. I've said in recent videos that they haven't really played anyone of note, and the teams that they have played of note, they've come off second best in a very bad way. For this game, even if DCE or Olakau'atu are out, I'm still going to go for Manly. I think that Canberra will be much improved from their loss against Cronulla, but I'm going to go for Manly to win at home. They're normally hard to beat at Brookfield Oval, so I'm going to go for Manly to win 1 to 12 points. And the main match on the Friday, and this is going to be a big one. It's Brisbane against Eastern Suburbs at Suncorp Stadium. In recent times, East have had a good record over Brisbane. They've won 7 of the last 10 matches. Both of these sides had very comfortable wins in round 8. Brisbane had a routine win over West Tigers, and Sydney Roosters put St George to the sword on Anzac Day. Now, both teams have injury concerns going into this match. There's a bit of a question mark on Reece Walsh and Adam Reynolds, but apparently they're going to be playing. The only real concern for Brisbane that came out of that match against West Tigers was Jock Madden. He could potentially be out for a couple of weeks. These two sides met in round 1 in Las Vegas, and East got the job done there. This is going to be another high quality game. It could really go either way because both teams are full of quality, and Brisbane have shown that they can win without their star players, and so have Eastern Suburbs. For this match, I'm going to go for Brisbane to win by 1 to 12 points. I'm going to go for the home side. Brisbane are normally pretty good at home. This game could go either way, but I'm leaning towards Brisbane, so I'm going to go for them to win by 1 to 12, but it could be even less than that. Could be a drop goal or just a single try. And the first match on Super Saturday is between Canterbury Bankstown and West Tigers. This one's being played at Stadium Australia. The head-to-head between these two sides in recent times has been quite even. However, In the last 10 meetings, Canterbury's won 6 and West have won 4. Canterbury will be coming into this match fresh off the bye, and West Tigers had another home defeat at Campbelltown, this time against Brisbane. There were a couple of West Tigers supporters online claiming that there was corruption and the refs were on Brisbane's side and it wasn't fair and they were robbed. But I mean, okay, the Coruscant try was a try, but they still lost by I think 24 points, so it wouldn't have decided the outcome. Canterbury will be coming to this game off the bye, and as Wobble and Jaws said in his videos, most teams that do come off the bye, they start a bit slow, they're a bit clunky, a bit disjointed. And I expect Canterbury will probably start the game like that, but will work their way into it. Now with West Tigers, they're kind of lucky that Parramatta, South and Gold Coast are all doing quite bad at the moment, because they've only won 2 matches this year, and only in one of them games where they actually convinced them, because the game against Parramatta, they could have lost that, and they should have lost that if Mitchell Moses were there, because he would have kicked that goal for sure. All the other matches that they've played this year, they haven't been at the races and they haven't been that good, so they'll be desperate to get a win here. They'll fancy their chances against Canterbury. However, I'm going to go for Canterbury to win by 1 to 12 points. From what I've seen this year, Canterbury's been playing better than West Tigers have, and they've shown me more in terms of what they can do on the pitch, so I'm going to go for Canterbury to win by 1 to 12 points. The second match on Super Saturday is between Gold Coast and Melbourne. This one's being played at Suburbs Super Stadium. Melbourne have a good record against the Gold Coast, and in the last 10 meetings they've won 9 of those. Now the Gold Coast got their first win of the year last week against New Zealand and one of the upsets of the season so far. However, they were very lucky to win that, because I watched the highlights and New Zealand scored a try which would have won them the game. However, it was called back because Wade Egan had knocked on from dummy half. So for the Gold Coast, they're lucky that the bunker were there on that occasion, because otherwise they would have lost another game. Because I think by memory they only won by 4 points on Anzac Day against New Zealand. As for Melbourne, they currently sit top of the table, and they battered South Sydney last week. And another concerning thing for the Gold Coast coming in this match against Melbourne is that every single game that they've played this year, they've conceded more than 20 points. And when you're playing against Melbourne, who can attack and can score points, it's not good signs for the Gold Coast. So for this match, I'm going to go for Melbourne to win 13 plus. I think the Gold Coast will put in a fight, they'll put in the effort, but I just think overall Melbourne will just have a bit too much class for the Gold Coast, so Melbourne 13 plus. And the third match on Super Saturday is between North Queensland and Redcliffe. This one's being played at the Queensland Country Bank Stadium in Townsville. These two sides have met 3 times since Redcliffe came in the NRL. North Queensland's won 2 of those, including the match this year, the season opener in round 1, where North Queensland defeated Redcliffe by I think 30 points. They gave them an absolute hiding. Now looking at the injury list and the suspension list, Redcliffe could potentially have about 6 or 7 players still out. That's first team players that won't be playing in this match. As for North Queensland, they've got some injury concerns of their own, but not on the same level as what Redcliffe have. Now last week both of these two sides had narrow losses, but in the case of North Queensland, head coach Todd Payton come out and said even though we lost only by 6 points against Penrith, it's still not good enough. So I imagine that he'll be putting them through a lot of hard training this week in anticipation for this match against Redcliffe. And Redcliffe will want to get some revenge for what happened in round 1. For this match though, I'm going to go for North Queensland. I'm confident that the home side can get the victory, so I'll go for North Queensland to win by 1 to 12 points on the Saturday. And the first match on the Sunday is between Newcastle and New Zealand. This one's being played at Marathon Stadium. In the last 10 meetings between these two sides, Newcastle have won 6 and New Zealand have won 4. New Zealand's record at Marathon Stadium in recent times hasn't been that great. Their last win there was in round 16 of the 2019 NRL season, And before that, you have to go back to round 14 of the 2016 NRL season for the last time that New Zealand had a victory in Newcastle. Both teams have a lot of injury concerns going into this game. For Newcastle, there's going to be Noah Ponga, Jacob Saifiti, Jed Cartwright might not play, and Greg Marzu. As for New Zealand, I've counted 7 players out from their first team that won't be competing in this game. Now with New Zealand, they've had 2 upset losses in a row against St George and against the Gold Coast. As for Newcastle, like I mentioned with West Tigers, they're lucky that some other teams around them haven't been performing well, because I'm not sold on Newcastle at all. They've picked up 3 wins this year. One of them was against a Melbourne team without Hughes and Munster, and they only just got over the line by 2 points. They beat St George in horrid conditions in Newcastle, and then they just beat a Redcliffe side by I think 4 points, and Redcliffe had about 6 or 7 players out, so they haven't been convincing at all, Newcastle. And I think they're just lucky that there's some other teams around them that haven't been performing or have been playing worse than they are. For this match, I will go for New Zealand to win by 1 to 12 points. Surely they can't lose 3 matches in a row where they've expected to win all 3. So New Zealand to win by 1 to 12 points. I think it'll be a tricky game up there in Newcastle, but I think New Zealand can get the job done. And the final match to close out round 9 of the 2024 NRL season is between Cronulla and St George. This one's being played at Shark Park. Now this is one of the big derbies in the NRL, and these are 2 fierce rivals. However, in recent times, Cronulla have dominated the fixture. They've won the last 8 matches. In total, since the 2 sides first played each other back in 1967, there's been 112 matches. St George have won 54, Cronulla's won 55, and there's been 3 draws. The last time that these 2 teams played, Cronulla posted the biggest ever win in the derby. They won 52 points to 16. Now, like South last week, St George and their premiership hopes were effectively ended. They conceded more than 50 points in a game, and we all know the rule around that. As for Cronulla, they won 40 points to 0 over Canberra. Now, I've said with a few people this year, St George are going to be one of them teams where they're going to be a tricky opponent. They're going to pull off the occasional upset win. They're going to really stretch a team, but then they're going to have performances like we saw against the Sydney Roosters and like what they had against Redcliffe, where they're going to get battered. So I think they're going to be a team that nobody really wants to face, because you don't know what you're going to be expecting. But I think that's what St George are going to be like this year. They're not going to come last, and they're going to pick up the occasional win, but they're definitely not like a top 8 type of a team. For this match, I'm going to have to go for Cronulla to win. Not sure if it's going to be 13 plus or 1 to 12, but you just can't, you cannot tip against Cronulla with the way that they've been playing, and the way that St George played last week. They've given me no confidence in them currently. So I'm going to go for Cronulla to win this match, and they're going to claim another victory in the derby. So those are my tips for round 9 of the 2024 NRL season. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, let me know in the comment section below. Let me know who you're tipping in round 9. So anyway, this has been Rugby League History. Thanks to everyone that tuned in last week for my tipping video, making it one of the most watched tipping videos on YouTube. It's much appreciated. Thanks to everyone that's been following and subscribing. And I'll catch us all later in the next one. Ta-ra for now.